We'll say goodbye to Jim, our conductor, and Ginger and Sue, our station masters, and Elena, all making it a place for you to be safely seated into our train. We are heading over to the coaling tower at this time, so we'll be stopping for coal. But over to your left is the Smiths Creek Station. It is a train station, a train depot. Places like this were starting to crop up all over the country with the advent of the steam locomotive. This particular one comes from Smiths Creek, Michigan, about 11 miles west of Port Huron, Michigan. And the reason why Henry Ford brought this particular station here in 1928 is because it had a young Thomas Edison connection. At the young age of 14, he would travel from Port Huron, Michigan, and sell candy and newspapers down his way to Detroit. There he would study at the library, and he would also purchase some things for his experiments. The conductor on the train allowed him to use the baggage car for his experiments, but until he let one of those baggage cars on fire, he was never allowed back again. In front of us is the Detroit, Toledo, Milwaukee Roundhouse, and this is a place that was also disappearing because of the steam locomotives as they disappeared in 1960. If you notice, looking on either side of the train, that there are fields that have already been turned over, and some of them had already been seeded, ready for this planting season. And the winter wheat is already growing off over to your left. We are now coming into the Firestone station. Remain seated and wait until you hear the sound of the single whistle, letting us know that it is okay to get off the train. You'll be exiting to your right side. Remember to keep your masks on, and when you do exit, please practice social distancing as you head toward the exit. We'll say goodbye to Hans and Pat, our station masters, and Mike, making it safe for you to come on board our train. As you come into the Greenfield Village, you come into over 300 years of history. We begin with our first district. It's called the Henry Ford Model T. Here you can trace the life of Henry Ford. He was born on the second floor of that white farmhouse there, oldest of 6 children. We have presenters there. We see them outside right now. They will tell you more about his early life. At the age of 16, he left home and he went to Detroit because he wanted to work with machines. After visiting the home, walk over to the Ford Motor Company and learn how he came up with that vision of a motor car that changed the world in 1908. The Model T. Our next district is called Main Street. Here you can visit the home of the Wright Brothers and the Wright Brothers Cycle Shop. Also, we have Mrs. Cohen's Millinery Shop, and there you can see some of the wonderful hats that the presenters have already made for the spring and summer. We also have the Herschel Spillman Carousel down the street, built in 1913. I hope you're going to take a spin on it today. Main Street is usually very active during our special events. Speaking of special events, Motor Muster is returning back on June 19th and 20th, and you will believe that that street will be packed with people and cars. Our next district is called Edison at Works, and it's here that you can visit Menlo Park. It's a reconstruction of the laboratory from Menlo Park, New Jersey. Up on the second floor is where Henry Ford had his laboratory. It was called the Invention Factory, and he came up with over 420 patents for inventions made. The phonograph, the record player, also the incandescent light bulb. The young men who were single that worked for him would rent a room from the Sarah Jordan boarding home. That's that yellow home that you see over to your left. And in 1879, this home was fitted for electrical power, the very first one in the entire world. Going into the house, you'll be able to see how they fitted the house with electricity. Next to that is the Fort Myers Laboratory. When Edison was wintering in Florida, he never stopped working on his inventions. Into our porches and parlors area, and what a beautiful place it is. They have homes of some famous people and some ordinary people. We have the home of Robert Frost Noah Webster. He's the person who came up with that American Dictionary of the English Language back in 1828. We have the Giddings family home that was built in the 1700s. Up ahead is the Susquehanna Plantation from Maryland. It was the largest plantation back in the day, 1835. Tobacco was the cash crop. Slaves were the ones that worked that plantation. We have a presenter at the home who will tell you more about the plantation and the slaves that worked there. Next to that is the Gidding family home. It happens to be the oldest American home that we have here at the village, built in the early 1700s. Mr. and Mrs. Plimpton lived there with their 7 children, a single-room home. You must go inside and see how they managed to make that work. Then we have the Ferris window, built in 1650 from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, a gift to Henry Ford, and the oldest standing windmill in the country. The Daggett family farmhouse is what we see as we leave this porches and parlors area, built in 1754. Mr. Daggett came up with his own heating and cooling system. Our train today is called the Edison. It was built in the 1870s. Henry Ford found it and decided that he would rebuild it, and when it was finished in 1932, he called it Edison after his dear friend Thomas Edison. We have 2 other steam locomotives here that we use. The Baldwin number 7, built in 1897, and also the Torch Lake, built in 1873. The locomotive pulling our second train today is called the GE Diesel Electric, and it was built in 1842 for the naval base. We use it here as a switcher. If you get a chance, if you want to learn more about Edison or any other steam locomotives we have here, our engineer today is Brad, and our fireman is Mark. When we pull into the Firestone station, it's a good time to say hello and maybe ask them a question or two. We're in our wildlife preserve area right now. Take a look to see if you can spot any deer or coyote or red foxes. We've seen wild turkey here, and also some waterfowl along the water area. And then just sit back and enjoy some of the sights and sounds that a steam locomotive makes. On October 21st, 1929, Henry Ford opened the Henry Ford Museum to celebrate its grand opening. However, he did not call it the grand opening of the Henry Ford Museum. He called it the Golden Lights Jubilee because what he wanted to celebrate was the 50th anniversary that Thomas Edison invented the incandescent light bulb. So he had Thomas Edison come over to our Menlo Park here and recreate that same experiment. Over at the museum, which was all lit by candles, over 277 dignitaries and guests were in attendance. And as soon as Edison did flip the switch to light that light bulb, all of Menlo Park was lighted and all the lights were on over at the museum. There will only be 8 more years till we celebrate the 100th anniversary of that very day. This is Walnut Grove area where we celebrate many of our historic events. Last year it was silenced because of COVID, but we are going to return events again, beginning with historic baseball on June 12th. We will have our home teams, the Nationals and the Latidas, play against other Midwestern teams. They play according to the 1867 rule books. They don't even wear catcher's gloves when they play. I hope you bring a lawn chair or a blanket and sit and watch them play. Also coming is on June 19th and 20th, we are having motor muster once again, like I mentioned earlier. There you'll be able to travel through time as you look over at some vintage cars through the past decades. In front of us is the Henry Ford Academy High School, built in 1997. It specializes in the STEAM program, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. 10th through 12th graders attend school here, and the 9th graders are over at the museum. And they are back in person. We are so happy for that. To be a student here, you have to live in Wayne County, Michigan, and it's a luck of the draw that your application is pulled so you can attend high school here for 4 years, tuition free. These vintage railroad cars, they're reserved for our privileged seniors. Henry Ford always believed in education. He believed that learning to do is by doing. And these students get to go through the museum or the village and see firsthand what they studied in the classroom. Now, when you look over to your left up the hill, you'll find at the back end of Main Street, we have the Martha Mary Chapel there, built in 1929, and Henry Ford honored his mother-in-law, Martha Bryant, and his mother, Mary, by building this chapel. Next to that is the Scott Solomon School, founded in 1861. Henry Ford attended elementary school in that one-room schoolhouse. And then we have the Logan County Courthouse that was built in 1840 from Portsville, Illinois. Abraham Lincoln practiced law on those very footboards. In front of us is the Taste of History restaurant. Here you can enjoy a lunch or snacks and beverages. They're open open till 4:30 today. If you are interested in eating at a historic event, the Eagle Tavern restaurant is opening on May 20th. Here you'll be able to walk into the doors and dine, just like they did back in the 1850s. The Eagle Tavern comes to us from Clinton, Michigan, and we are very happy to have its return. If you're getting off at this spot, I encourage you to take a ride on the Herschel Spillman Carousel. Visit the Edison Illuminating Company, or maybe take a short walk down over to the frozen custard stand and enjoy one. They make, the recipe is just like that from Coney Island, New York from 1919. We're coming into the Smiths Creek Station. Remain seated. The engineer will set a brake and give us the sound of a single whistle, letting us know that it is safe to come off the train. You'll exit to the left on this spot. And we'll say hello to Tom, our station master there, and Sue, and I'm sorry, conductor, and Sue and Ginger, our station masters. This particular station was brought here by Ford because it also had a young Thomas Edison connection. He would take the train for 4 years in Michigan all the way down to Dearborn so he could study at the Weiser Railroad. And then on the way back he would pick up newspapers and sell them. Just up ahead is the Milwaukee Roundhouse.